The Buddha's enlightenment. It is impossible to know exactly what the Buddha realized beneath that tree. But based on his many teachings, which, like Homer's Odyssey, were first orally transmitted by his followers, we know that sitting under the peepal tree, he attempted to reach beyond ordinary consciousness to a place where he perceived himself as one with the life of the universe. It has been recorded that in the early stages of his meditation, he was still bound by the distinction between subject, himself, and object, exterior world. He was aware of his own consciousness being surrounded by a wall, the boundary of his body, as well as the environment outside of himself. Finally, according to Daisaku Ikeda in The Living Buddha, Shakyamuni had a clear vision of his own life in all its manifestations in time. According to the doctrine of transmigration, which had from early times been expounded in Brahmanism, the life of a human being is by no means limited to the present. Shakyamuni, meditating under the Bodhi tree, clearly recollected all his previous existences one by one and perceived that his present existence was part of the unbroken chain of birth, death, and rebirth that had been continuing through incalculable eons in the past. This was not something that came to him as a kind of intuition, nor did he perceive it as a concept or idea. It was a clear and real recollection, not unlike, though on a very different plane from, the events deeply buried within the recesses of our mind that we suddenly remember when we are in a state of extreme tension or concentration. He understood the true aspect of reality as impermanence. So what does this mean? All things, all phenomena are undergoing constant change. Life, nature, and society never cease to change for even a single moment. It looks as if the desk you are sitting at, or the book you hold in your hands, or the building you live in are solid construction, but they will all crumble someday. Buddhism clearly explains that suffering emerges in our hearts because we forget the principle of impermanence and believe that what we possess will last forever. Suppose you have a good-looking girlfriend or boyfriend. Do you spend a lot of time wondering what she or he will look like in 30 or 40 years? Of course not. It is human nature to feel that health and youth will last forever. Similarly, there are few wealthy people who imagine that their money could someday be gone. There is nothing wrong with people thinking this way. Nevertheless, we suffer because we have such notions. You may want to keep your sweetheart young and beautiful forever and may make intensive efforts toward making love last. Still, if and when the time comes to depart from your loved one, you will feel the deepest pain because people want to accumulate wealth. Some will go as far as to struggle against others, and if they lose that wealth, they must taste the bitter fruit of suffering. Even the attachment of life itself entails suffering because we fear death. Buddhism teaches us to recognize these cycles of impermanence and have the courage to accept them. In addition to his understanding of impermanence, the interrelatedness of all things is said to have unfolded in Shakyamuni's awakened mind. The universe and everything in it are in flux, arising and ceasing, appearing and disappearing. in an unending cycle of change conditioned by the law of causation. All things are subject to the law of cause and effect, and consequently nothing can exist independent of other things. This Buddhistic concept of causation is also known as dependent origination. Shakyamuni awakened to the eternal law of life that permeates the universe, the mystic law of life, in which all things in the universe interrelate and influence one another in an unending cycle of birth and death. The substance of Shakyamuni's awakening is explained in the concept of the Four Noble Truths, which explains that 1, all existence is suffering. 2, suffering is caused by selfish craving. 3, the eradication of selfish craving brings about the cessation of suffering and enables one to attain nirvana. And 4, there is a path by which this eradication can be achieved, namely the discipline of the Eightfold Path. Here we can see the earliest indications that the process of achieving absolute happiness, emancipated from the sufferings of life, is a path or journey. Dispelling ignorance and establishing a correct view are the centerpiece of Buddhist practice. They are also the motivation that initiated a 3,000-year search, beginning with Shakyamuni himself, to elucidate the vehicle or method that would carry a Buddhist practitioner along the path to cessation of suffering and the attainment of absolute happiness. All of the various Buddhist schools and practices have developed in an effort to create such a vehicle. For some time following his awakening, Shakyamuni remained seated under the Bodhi tree in a joyful state. When he re-entered the world, however, he soon began to be troubled by the thought that his enlightenment to the law of life might prove difficult to communicate. Since the depth of his understanding greatly surpassed that of the most advanced spiritual seekers of his day, he prepared his listeners by first instructing them with easy-to-understand parables and analogies. In this way, Shakyamuni gradually awakened those he taught, while adhering to his ultimate aim of showing all people that they possess Buddhahood. As he states in a telling passage from the Lotus Sutra, "At all times I think to myself, how can I cause living beings to gain entry into the unsurpassed way and quickly acquire the body of a Buddha?" It was no easy task. Shakyamuni spent the remaining 40-some years of his life preaching to troubled people in ways best suited to their understanding. In this light, we see that the idea of Buddhism as the special preserve of holy men meditating on mountaintops is erroneous. Shakyamuni never meant for his teachings to apply only to a cloistered group of devotees. All the evidence suggests that he wished for his teachings to become widespread and to be adopted by the common man and woman. His lessons were compiled as the so-called 84,000 teachings, which, like the teachings of Jesus, have been interpreted and reinterpreted for centuries. Indeed, the principal problem for Buddhists throughout the millennia has been not so much what the Buddha said, but how to put his teachings into practice. How, in essence, to experience the Buddha's enlightenment, his transcendent wisdom, how to become a Buddha oneself. Like and subscribe for next time, okay? Thank you.